The first sign came at 2:47 a.m., when every seismic monitor in Gotham registered a tremor that shouldn't exist. Not an earthquake, something else. The readings showed displacement without source energy, without origin. By dawn, 3 more cities reported the same phenomenon. Metropolis, Central City, Star City. Each time the disturbance lasted exactly 11 seconds. Each time reality seemed to stutter like a film reel catching on damaged sprockets. In the Watchtower now, regime headquarters, Superman stood before the holographic map, arms crossed. Red Cape hung motionless despite the recycled air. The satellite's ambient hum felt louder than usual in the operations room. "Another one," Wonder Woman said, entering from the corridor. Her armor caught the blue light from the displays. "Coast City 2 minutes ago." "Pattern?" Superman's jaw tightened. "None that our systems can detect." She moved beside him, studying the blinking markers. "But the magical community is reporting something else. Executions." Superman turned. "Elaborate." 5 practitioners found dead in the last 48 hours. All users of dark magic according to Constantine's network. All killed the same way, judgment without trial. "The Spectre," Wonder Woman nodded. "The rumor is spreading. God's wrath walks the earth again." Superman's eyes narrowed. For 5 years he'd built this world on one principle order, through strength, peace, through control. Magic was the variable that kept slipping through his fingers. Now something was hunting magic users, and he didn't know whether to feel relieved or concerned. "Assemble a team. I want..." The console erupted in red. Every alarm simultaneously. Every screen. "What is that?" Wonder Woman reached for her sword on instinct. The hologram flickered, died, rebooted. When it stabilized, a new marker pulsed over Gotham. Not red. Not any color in their threat assessment protocols. The system simply labeled it Unknown Entity Catastrophic Classification. Superman was already moving. "Get everyone combat ready, now!" Gotham's East Side Industrial District had been quiet since the regime shut down the remaining criminal operations. Empty warehouses lined streets where streetlights barely functioned. The only movement came from automated patrol drones making their rounds. Then the sky cracked. Not metaphorically. A visible fracture appeared in the air itself, 20 feet above an abandoned factory roof. The edges glowed with something that wasn't quite light, wasn't quite fire. Reality peeled back like torn paper. And he stepped through. Gray skin, hairless scalp, black eyes that absorbed rather than reflected. The red and black uniform marked him as something soldier, enforcer, judge, but no database on Earth would recognize the Pride Trooper's insignia. Jiren stood on nothing. No platform, no telekinetic cushion. He simply was suspended in violation of physics, 30 feet above cracked asphalt. His posture radiated stillness, the kind of calm that made predators nervous. Below, a regime patrol drone detected him instantly. Its weapon systems activated standard protocol for unidentified metahumans. Plasma cannons charged with a high-pitched whine. Jiren's eyes moved. Just that. A slight shift in focus. The drone exploded into components. Not destroyed, disassembled. Circuit boards plating power cells, all separating in mid-air before clattering to the street in a perfect circle. A heartbeat later, a flash appeared. Not Barry Allen, he'd chosen Batman's side. This one wore regime colors recruited from an alternate timeline where loyalty hadn't wavered. Fast enough to break light barriers trained to neutralize threats before they could react. He went for the standard blitz circle, the target at Mach 6 create a vacuum. Watch them suffocate while you decide how much force to use. Jiren caught him by the throat. No special technique, no visible movement. One instant the speedster was accelerating, the next he dangled in Jiren's grip boots, scraping empty air. The shock registered in his eyes, first the impossibility of being caught at that velocity, then pain as Jiren's fingers tightened. "Fast," Jiren said. His first word since arriving. "Not enough." He released. The speedster dropped, gasping, unable to process what had just occurred. Every calculation his enhanced mind could make said this encounter was impossible. You couldn't grab something moving at Mach 6 without being torn apart by friction forces. Jiren descended slowly, feet touching asphalt without sound. He surveyed the empty street, the darkened buildings, the patrol drones now converging from 3 directions. His expression never changed. "This place," he said, voice carrying despite barely rising above conversational volume, "reeks of false judgment." The drones opened fire. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds. EMP bursts, everything the regime's best engineers could pack into automated weapons platforms. Enough firepower to level a city block. Jiren raised one hand. Not in a defensive gesture, more like someone brushing away cobwebs. The barrage stopped. Not blocked, not deflected. Simply stopped, frozen in mid-air energy, bleeding away into nothing. The drones hung, suspended their targeting systems, screaming errors they weren't programmed to understand. Then Jiren closed his fist. Every drone crumpled simultaneously, crushed by invisible pressure into spheres of compressed metal and wire. They hit the ground with synchronized thuds, twitching sparks dying out one by one. "Who?" Jiren said, scanning the rooftops he knew were occupied, "is pretending to be the judge." In the Watchtower's command center, Superman watched the feed from Gotham's surveillance network. 3 satellites tracked the figure in red and black. Every tactical analysis program rated him catastrophic threat level. "Visual identification?" he asked. Cyborg's human eye flickered with data streams. "Negative. No match in any database, government, criminal, meta-human, or alien. He doesn't exist in our records." "He exists now." Superman's hands tightened on the console edge. Steel groaned. "Threat assessment. Preliminary kinetic analysis suggests Class 5 strength minimum. Speed sufficient to intercept flash-level velocity. Energy signature is..." Cyborg paused. "Sir, the readings don't make sense. He's not drawing from any known power source. No solar absorption, no speed force connection, no magic trace. The energy is just there." Wonder Woman stepped closer to the main display. "And he's asking about a judge. You think he means the Spectre? Or he means me?" Superman's jaw set. "Prep a strike team. Diana, Hal, John, anyone capable of Class 5 engagement. But I'm going first." "Superman. He appeared in my city, under my watch. This is my responsibility." Superman was already moving toward the teleporter cape, streaming behind him. Wonder Woman and Cyborg exchanged glances, but didn't argue. They'd learned years ago that when Superman made that particular decision, nothing would change his mind. The teleporter hummed. Blue light engulfed the Man of Steel. And in Gotham, Jiren waited patient as carved stone for the confrontation he knew was coming. Because that's what tyrants did. They came to assert control. And that's when they learned control was an illusion. Batman watched from a building 12 blocks away. Gauntlet computer displaying the same satellite feeds Superman was seeing. Behind him, Catwoman leaned against an air conditioning unit, arms crossed. "That's new," she said. "Unknown combatant. Regime classification catastrophic." Batman's fingers moved across the holographic interface. Took down 3 drones in a flash, without visible effort. So we recruit him. We observe. Batman's eyes never left the screen. Power without context is just another variable. We need to understand what he wants before we know if he's useful. What he wants Bruce, he just asked who's pretending to be a judge in Superman's Gotham. That's not subtle. Batman pulled up enhanced audio from the satellite feed, isolating Jiren's voice. The waveform analysis showed something unusual. Absolute consistency. No emotional variance, no stress markers. Every syllable delivered with mechanical precision. He's not from here, Batman said quietly. And he doesn't care about our politics. That makes him dangerous to both sides. Or useful to neither. Batman saved the data, began running predictive models. Alert the magical contingent. If he's hunting the Spectre, or whatever's pretending to be the Spectre, we need Constantine ready. Constantine's drunk in the House of Mystery. Then sober him up, fast. On the screen, Superman materialized in Gotham's industrial district, floating 20 feet from the gray-skinned stranger. The 2 figures faced each other across empty air, and Batman felt the familiar weight in his chest that came before everything changed. This wasn't going to end with words. It never did anymore. Superman materialized 30 feet from the gray-skinned figure, boots touching down on cracked pavement. The teleporter's residual energy dissipated around him in blue motes. 5 years of absolute authority had taught him to recognize threats instantly. And every instinct screamed that this stranger was catastrophic. "You're in my city, I must," Superman said. Not a question, a statement of ownership. Jiren turned. Slow, deliberate. Those black pupils absorbed light without reflection, studying the man of steel with the same dispassion one might observe an insect. "Your city." Jiren's tone carried no inflection. "Built on compliance, not consent." Superman's fists clenched. He'd heard these arguments before from Batman, from the rebels, from idiots who couldn't see that peace required sacrifice. But this wasn't a debate. This was a containment situation. "I don't know what reality you crawled out of," Superman said, floating higher, establishing dominance through position. "But in this one, I maintain order. You have 10 seconds to surrender, or I remove you." "Remove." Jiren tilted his head fractionally. The tyrant's first reflex. Superman's heat vision lanced out. Twin beams of concentrated solar energy, capable of cutting through reinforced steel, atomizing concrete, boiling oceans. The kind of power that ended arguments before they started. Jiren raised 2 fingers. The beams bent. Not deflected, curved, redirected into empty air where they scorched nothing but oxygen. Superman cut the vision, recalculating. Nobody did that. Not without magic, not without technology, not without... Jiren moved, one instant standing still. The next directly in front of Superman, close enough that the Kryptonian could see his own reflection in those lightless pupils. No sonic boom, no displacement wave, simply there. Superman swung. Full strength, the kind of haymaker that had shattered mountains and ended wars. His fist blurred through air hard enough to create vacuum pockets. Jiren caught it, palm to knuckles. The impact generated a shockwave that shattered every window for 3 blocks. Car alarms screamed. Streetlights exploded in cascades of sparks. And Superman's fist stopped dead, held motionless by fingers that shouldn't be able to resist Kryptonian force. "Fast," Jiren said. "Powerful, undisciplined." He pushed. Superman flew backward, tumbling through air, smashing through the wall of an abandoned warehouse. Steel girders bent around him. Concrete dust billowed. He caught himself before hitting the far wall, boots skidding on debris-covered floor. Impossible. The word rattled in his mind. Nobody matched his strength. Not Wonder Woman, not Shazam, not even Darkseid had stopped him that easily. Superman exploded forward, abandoning restraint. Supersonic punch elbow strike knee to midsection, a combination that had demolished Doomsday. Each blow carried enough kinetic energy to level buildings. Jiren blocked them all, not through superior speed, through prediction. Reading Superman's pattern before the attack, finished forming positioning defense with mechanical precision. And each block sent tremors through Superman's bones, as if he were punching reinforced titanium. They clashed, mid-air fists, meeting in a thunderclap that cracked the asphalt below in spiderweb patterns. Windows that survived the first exchange shattered now. Fire hydrants burst, sending geysers into smoke-filled air. "You ended war," Jiren said, voice unchanged despite the violence. "By ending freedom?" Superman headbutted him. The crack echoed across Gotham's skyline. Jiren's head snapped back, first sign of actual impact. But when he looked forward again, no blood, no bruise, just that same impassive evaluation. "Desperation," Jiren observed. "The foundation cracks. I saved this world," Superman roared, and the buildings shook from volume alone. "Millions alive because I stopped playing by rules that got good people killed." He grabbed Jiren's shoulders, drove him downward at terminal velocity. They hit street level with force that cratered pavement 20 feet deep. Shockwaves rippled outward, buckling foundations, collapsing already weakened structures. Superman pinned him, hand around throat, other fist drawn back. "You want justice? I am justice. Everything I've done, every hard choice, every sacrifice, it all leads to a world without random death, without chaos." Jiren's hand moved. Not fast, just efficient. He gripped Superman's wrist, pulled it away from his throat like removing a child's toy. Then stood lifting Superman with him, despite the Kryptonian's best efforts to stay grounded. "Protection that demands obedience," Jiren said, "is not protection." He drove his palm into Superman's sternum. The impact sent the Man of Steel rocketing skyward, breaking the sound barrier 3 times before he caught himself at cloud level. His chest felt compressed ribs, screaming protest. Below, Jiren stood in the crater's center, watching, waiting. In the watchtower, Wonder Woman stared at the satellite feed. He just pushed Superman away. Cyborg's processors worked overtime analyzing the combat data. Kinetic analysis is off the charts. That last hit registered force equivalent to a tactical nuke. "Is Superman?" "He's fine, recovering." Cyborg pulled up medical telemetry. But his vitals spiked. Pain response. Genuine pain. Wonder Woman's hand found her sword hilt. When was the last time anyone hurt him? The question hung unanswered. Since Metropolis burned, since Lois died, since Superman decided to rule rather than inspire, he'd been untouchable. Gods had challenged him. He'd won. Monsters had risen. He'd crushed them. The Man of Steel had become the man no force could break. Until now. "Prep everyone," Wonder Diana said. "If Superman can't contain this alone." The feed showed Superman diving back down, heat vision blazing, frost breath following, every tool in his arsenal deployed simultaneously. Jiren weathered it all, a statue in a hurricane, then struck back with measured brutality. "We're going to need an army," Wonder Woman finished. Batman's gauntlet computer captured every second. The underground bunker's screens displayed trajectory analysis, force calculations, threat assessments updating in real time. "He's holding back," Batman said. Oracle's voice crackled through the comm. "Superman or the Gray One?" "Both. Superman's not trying to kill. Probably hopes to imprison study control." Batman's fingers danced across holographic keys. "But the other one, Jiren, if that drone audio caught his name, he's teaching." "Teaching what?" "That strength without authority means nothing. Superman's been the biggest fist for 5 years. Now someone's showing him bigger fists exist." On screen, Jiren caught another of Superman's punches, twisted, and sent him crashing through 3 buildings, end to end. Regime drones scrambled to evacuate civilians. but most of the district had been emptied years ago during previous regime operations. "Bruce," Oracle said carefully, "if he can beat Superman, what's stopping him from ruling instead?" Batman didn't answer immediately. He zoomed in on Jiren's expression during combat. No joy, no anger, no satisfaction, just cold efficiency like a surgeon excising disease. "He doesn't want to rule," Batman said finally. "He wants to judge. Is that better? We'll find out." Superman tasted copper. Blood. His own blood for the first time in years. The split in his lip healed almost instantly, Kryptonian biology knitting tissue back together. But the fact it happened at all sent ice through his thoughts. He hovered 60 feet up, breathing hard despite not needing oxygen. Below Jiren stood motionless posture, relaxed, not even winded. "Last chance," Superman said, voice rough. "Stand down or I stop holding back." "You have been holding back nothing." Jiren's head tilted slightly. "But you have been limited. By arrogance. By belief that power grants wisdom." Red crept into Superman's vision, the edges of control fraying. How dare this stranger, this nobody from nowhere, lecture him about wisdom? He'd buried his wife. He'd burned his hands trying to save a city he accidentally destroyed. He'd made the hard choices, the impossible decisions, the sacrifices that broke him into the tool this world needed. And this gray-skinned judge stood there, untouched, unbowed, unimpressed. Superman gathered solar radiation from every cell, channeling it into focused destruction. His entire body glowed blue-white aura, crackling with lethal intent. The temperature rose 50 degrees in seconds. Asphalt began to melt. "You think you understand justice?" Superman's voice resonated with barely contained power. "You know nothing about this world. Nothing about what it takes to protect billions. I know tyranny when I see it." Jiren spread his feet slightly, settling into a stance. "And I know what must be done when justice becomes its opposite." They charged simultaneously. The collision generated a blast wave that shattered every structure within half a mile. Gotham's skyline lit up like a second sun had ignited at street level. Seismographs across the eastern seaboard registered the impact. In the watchtower, alarms screamed warnings about atmospheric disruption. In the Batcave, structural integrity monitors showed the city buckling. And in the House of Mystery, Constantine dropped his whiskey glass, staring at nothing. "Bloody hell," he whispered. "The world's starting to crack." They fought through rubble and ruin, neither giving ground. Superman's attacks came faster now, desperation lending speed to power. Jiren countered each strike with minimal movement, redirecting energy rather than absorbing it, using Superman's momentum against him. "You ended war by becoming what you fought." Superman's fist grazed Jiren's temple. "You maintain peace through fear." Jiren's counterstrike doubled Superman over. "There is a name for that. Necessary." Superman grabbed Jiren in a bear hug, trying to crush to break to prove he still held ultimate force. "Everything I've done was necessary." Jiren looked down at the arms straining around him. Then he flexed. The grip broke. Superman stumbled back, shock registering clearly, now the invincible man of steel forced to confront a truth he'd avoided for 5 years. He was not the strongest. He was not inevitable. He was not God. Jiren advanced each step deliberate. Strength does not make you right. It makes you dangerous. Superman's heat vision lashed out wild. Unfocused, the attack of someone who'd lost control. Jiren weaved through the beam's closed distance and delivered a palm strike to Superman's solar plexus that sent him rocketing through 3 city blocks. When Superman finally stopped embedded in the ruins of an old apartment complex, he lay still for 3 full seconds. Processing, recalculating, understanding that this fight could not be won through force alone. He rose slowly, costume torn, bleeding from a dozen small cuts that immediately healed. In the distance, Jiren stood silhouetted against fire, patient as a gravestone. "This isn't over," Superman said, but even he heard the hollow ring in his words. No, Jiren agreed. It has barely begun, but you will learn as I did justice built on power alone always collapses. He turned, dismissing Superman as a threat, and began walking away. Superman's pride screamed to attack again to prove himself to reclaim dominance. But his tactical mind, the part that still thought like the hero he'd been, recognized the truth. This gray stranger had matched him, exceeded him, and done it while holding conversation, as if the battle barely required attention. Superman flew skyward without another word, retreating to the watchtower. Behind him, Gotham burned in patches, another scar on a city that collected them like souvenirs. And Jiren continued walking, searching for the false judge who'd drawn him here, unconcerned with the chaos in his wake. Because chaos was temporary, truth was eternal, and judgment, when properly delivered, required no second attempt. The third body arrived at sunrise. Constantine found it in an alley behind the Oblivion Bar, what remained of Marcus Webb, a hedge wizard who'd specialized in protective wards. Nothing explosive, nothing lethal. Just barriers against intrusion, the kind of magic that kept families safe from supernatural threats. Now he was ash and scorched bone arranged in a perfect circle. The concrete around him bore symbols that made Constantine's vision blur when he looked directly at them. Judgment? Constantine muttered, lighting a silk cut with trembling fingers. Bloody divine judgment. Zatanna crouched beside the remains' hands, hovering but not touching. The signature is wrong. Spectre kills with purpose, with weight. This feels, she frowned, theatrical. You saying someone's playing dress up? I'm saying something murdered 5 practitioners in 3 days, and the Spectre hasn't shown his face in months. Zatanna stood brushing dust from her fishnets. Either God's wrath has new hobbies, or we're being hunted by something wearing his reputation. Constantine exhaled smoke, watching it dissipate into morning light. 5 dead. All minor practitioners, no major threats. The kind of magic users who healed pets and warded apartments. Not exactly the Apocalypse Prevention Brigade. Regime's gonna love this, he said. More reason to round up anyone who can light a candle with their mind. Assam, as if summoned by prophecy, 3 regime drones descended into the alley, scanners active. Their speakers crackled with automated authority. Magic signature detected. All present individuals will submit to... Constantine flicked his cigarette at the lead drone. It bounced off harmlessly, but the gesture conveyed sufficient disrespect. Piss off, Tin Man. Crime scene investigation. The drone's recalibrated weapon systems powering up. Standard protocol: resistance equals threat equals elimination. Zatanna's hands moved in practiced patterns. Celeb Emosib. A gray hand appeared between her and the drones. Jiren materialized from nothing, standing perfectly centered in the alley. The drone's targeting lasers painted red dots across his chest. He didn't acknowledge them. You, Constantine said, recognition sparking. The bloke who gave Superman a proper thrashing. Jiren's attention remained fixed on the ash circle. Another false judgment. Recent. Yeah, about 6 hours ago. Constantine studied the newcomer. The alien physiology, the military-style uniform, the absolute stillness that marked genuine predators. You here to arrest us too, because the queue's getting long. I am here, Jiren said, kneeling beside the remains, because justice demands it. The drones opened fire. Plasma bolts converged on Jiren's position. Constantine grabbed Zatanna, pulling her behind a dumpster. The alley erupted in light and heat and ozone stench. When the barrage ended, the dumpster was slag. The walls were scorched. The concrete had melted into glass in patches. And Jiren stood unchanged. One hand raised, the plasma dissipating around him like rain off stone. Insufficient, he said. He closed his fist. The drones crumpled instantly, crushed by invisible pressure into basketball-sized spheres of compacted electronics. They clattered to the ground, sparking weakly. Constantine emerged from cover, brushing brick dust from his trench coat. "Right. You're the real deal then." "The killer," Jiren said, returning his focus to the ash circle, "is not divine. Divine judgment carries certainty. This carries performance." "Performance?" Zatanna stepped forward cautiously. "You think someone wants us to believe it's the Spectre? I think someone benefits from fear." Jiren touched the symbols, and they flared briefly before fading. Magic users die. Those who remain live in terror. And a tyrant uses that terror to tighten control. Constantine lit another cigarette. "You got Superman pegged pretty quick." "I have seen this before." The words came flat, empty of nostalgia. Authority that justifies itself through manufactured crisis. Justice squads that forget their purpose. "So what, you're here to fix it?" Constantine's tone carried equal parts mockery and genuine curiosity. Jiren stood, turning to face them fully. "I am here to end whatever game is being played. You may continue your investigation, but do not mistake my presence for alliance." "Wouldn't dream of it, mate." Constantine exhaled smoke. "But if you're hunting the fake Spectre, you should know last sighting was Tower of Fate 30 minutes ago. Another body. Bigger fish this time. Then that is where I go next. Just like that. No plan, no backup, no..." Jiren was already gone. No flash, no portal. Simply absent, as if he'd never occupied the space at all. Zatanna stared at empty air. "What the hell was that?" "That," Constantine said, grinding his cigarette under his heel, "was someone who's either going to save us all or kill us trying. Possibly both." The House of Mystery existed in conceptual space rather than geographic location, which made it perfect for emergency meetings of people who wanted to stay hidden from Superman's satellites. Batman stood before a table covered in maps, surveillance photos, and magical artifacts that hurt to look at directly. Around him, Zatanna, Constantine, Dr. Fate, and a handful of insurgency operatives who specialized in the supernatural. 3 more in the last 6 hours. Batman said, pointing to markers on the map. "All magic users, all killed with the same signature that's been attributed to the Spectre." Dr. Fate's voice resonated with Nabu's ancient power. "The Spectre has not walked this plane in months. What hunts these practitioners is an impostor. Regime doesn't care." Batman pulled up holographic data from his forearm console. "Superman's already issued orders. All known magic practitioners are to be detained for protective custody. He's using these murders as justification for a purge." "Convenient timing," Constantine muttered from his position against the wall, whiskey glass in hand. Almost like someone wanted exactly that reaction. "The gray one." Dr. Fate turned slightly golden helm, reflecting nothing. "Jiren." He recognized the deception immediately. Batman's jaw tightened fractionally. "You've encountered him." "Tower of Fate 20 minutes ago. He arrived as I discovered the 6th body, a chaos mage named Thorn." Fate's hands moved through the air, conjuring images of ash and symbol work. "He identified the killer as fraudulent before I could complete my analysis. And then..." Batman's fingers moved across his console, already pulling up every available data point on the stranger who'd matched Superman blow for blow. "He left. Hunting, I presume." Batman studied the fragmented information his systems had compiled. Jiren, unknown origin, no match in any database capable of withstanding Kryptonian assault without visible strain. Tactical analysis suggested Class 5 strength minimum, but the upper limit remained undefined. "He beats Superman," one of the operatives said quietly. He matched Superman, Batman corrected. There's a difference, but the result is the same, another variable we can't control. Constantine poured himself more whiskey. He's not with us, made that clear. Said something about not mistaking his presence for alliance. Did he specify why he's here? To end the game, direct quote. Bloke's got a real hard-on for justice. The proper kind, not Superman's flavor. Batman filed that information, running probability matrices. Unknown combatant superior force, no political alignment, focused on exposing fraud. Either an opportunity or a catastrophe waiting to happen. We need to identify the impostor, Batman said. If it's not the Spectre, then someone with reality warping capabilities is targeting magic users specifically. That narrows the list. Or expands it, Zatanna countered. Could be a demon, an imp, a rogue lord of order, or something from outside continuity entirely. Then we start eliminating possibilities. Batman's voice carried the absolute certainty that had kept him alive through 5 years of war. Dr. Fate, you'll investigate the mystical signature. Zatanna, Constantine, contact your networks, find out who benefits from dead magic users besides Superman. I want... The House of Mystery shuddered. Not physically, conceptually, as if reality itself had stumbled over an unexpected obstacle. Books fell from shelves that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Candles that burned with captured starlight flickered and died. Dr. Fate rose instantly, helm blazing with defensive magic. The veil thins. Something tears at the boundaries. Jiren, Constantine suggested. No, this is not force. This is manipulation. Fate's hands wove complex patterns trying to stabilize the house's connection to reality. Someone plays with the rules themselves. Batman accessed his satellite network, pulling feeds from across the globe. I'm seeing atmospheric distortions in 7 major cities, energy readings that don't match any known phenomenon. It's like the world's starting to slip. Constantine finished, face pale. Bloody hell. I've seen this before. Year 3, when the house stabilized abruptly, snapping back into focus with jarring certainty. Everyone stood frozen, waiting for the second tremor that experience taught them always came. It didn't. Whatever that was, Zatanna said carefully, it just announced itself. Loudly. Batman's mind raced through scenarios, contingencies, threat assessments. Unknown reality manipulator. Dead magic users, Superman tightening control, and Jiren hunting through the chaos for his false judge. Too many variables, too many moving pieces. And somewhere in the darkness, something laughed at all of them. Constantine, Batman said quietly. You mentioned year 3. What happened then? Constantine drained his whiskey. Reality warpers fought. Trigon and XYZ tearing at the fabric of things until the whole sodding world nearly came apart. Took everything we had to shove them into a void and seal it shut. Could they have gotten out? Shouldn't be possible. We used Shazam's lightning fate's anchors, Nightwings. Constantine stopped. But if someone wanted them out, if someone with the right knowledge, the right motivation... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Batman pulled up archived files from year 3, studying the patterns. The escalation, the near apocalypse that Superman's regime had barely survived. And now someone was recreating those conditions. The question was why. Jiren found the 7th body at the Tower of Fate. Another practitioner, another ash circle, another set of symbols that screamed false authority. But this time he felt the presence before seeing it. A figure in green and white materialized above the corpse. Hooded cloak, no visible face, radiating the kind of power that rewrote local physics. The air around it bent colors shifting through spectrums that human eyes weren't designed to process. Judgment, the figure intoned voice resonating with manufactured divinity. For crimes against the natural order. Jiren studied it. Posture, energy signature, the small tells that separated genuine authority from crude imitation. "You are not the specter," Jiren said. The figure turned slowly, acknowledging him for the first time. "And you are not of this world. Yet you presume to question divine will. Divine will does not perform, does not announce itself." Jiren's stance shifted fractionally, weight distributing for combat. "You hunt the weak to spread fear. That is not judgment. That is terrorism." The false specter laughed, and the sound made reality ripple. "Terrorism I am the hand of." Jiren moved. No warning, no build-up. One instant stationary, the next directly before the impostor fist already in motion. The blow connected with something that felt solid but wrong, like punching through thick gel. The figure staggered backward, and for just a moment the disguise flickered. Something else showed through something small, purple grinning. Then it solidified again, and the false specter's voice dropped all pretense of divinity. "Oh," it said, tone shifting to amused curiosity. "You're interesting. Show your true face," Jiren demanded, "or I will force it." "Force?" The impostor tilted its head. "You think you can force me to do anything I am?" Jiren struck again faster. Multiple blows designed to disrupt concentration rather than destroy. Each impact created visible distortions in the air reality, struggling to accommodate forces it wasn't built to handle. The false specter retreated, no longer attacking, just defending. And now Jiren saw it clearly, the way it bent rules rather than breaking them. Warped probability rather than confronting power directly. "You cannot kill with strength," Jiren said, pressing the assault. "You can only manipulate, and manipulation requires focus." He accelerated, denying the impostor time to think, to scheme, to reshape their encounter into something more favorable. This was the fundamental difference between true power and parlor tricks. Tricks required setup time. The false specter's form flickered again, struggling to maintain coherence under sustained pressure. Its voice lost the manufactured weight, becoming higher, more irritated. "Fine. You want to play rough? Let's see how you handle..." It vanished. Not through teleportation, through cessation. As if it had simply decided to stop existing in this particular moment. Jiren lowered his fists, slowly scanning for residual energy. Nothing. The impostor had withdrawn completely, abandoning this encounter in favor of easier prey. "Coward," Jiren said to empty air. But he'd learned what he needed. The false judge wasn't invincible. It could be pressured, disrupted, forced to reveal cracks in its facade. And most importantly, it didn't want direct confrontation with someone who refused to play by manipulated rules. Behind him, Dr. Fate materialized, helm glowing with cautious power. "You forced it to retreat," Fate said. "I sensed the confrontation. That should not be possible with an entity of that nature. All entities break under sufficient pressure." Jiren turned to face the Lord of Order. "Your tower, your responsibility. You allowed this thing to kill here." "I did not allow." Fate paused, recalibrating. "You are correct. I failed to protect those under cosmic jurisdiction. The question is why? What blocks my perception? Someone who benefits from magic users dying and Superman growing more tyrannical." Jiren's black pupils fixed on Fate's golden helm. Someone who wants this world to tear itself apart. And you intend to stop them. I intend to judge them. Properly. Fate studied the gray warrior for 3 heartbeats, then nodded once, a gesture that carried weight beyond simple agreement. I will aid you if you permit, not as alliance, but as shared purpose. Your magic cannot touch this creature, Jiren said. It exists outside your framework. Then I will find another framework. Fate gestured, and the ash circle on the ground flared with renewed light, revealing patterns even Jiren's enhanced perception found complex. I am the balance between order and chaos. If this entity disrupts that balance, I have jurisdiction regardless of dimension. Jiren considered that, then gave a single minimal nod. Stay out of my way. He left the tower through the front entrance this time, walking rather than vanishing. Behind him, Dr. Fate began the work of tracing what should be untraceable seeking order in deliberate chaos. And somewhere in the spaces between moments, something purple and small watched both of them with growing interest. The game was getting more fun. More players meant more chaos, and chaos meant opportunity. The 8th body never existed. Constantine stood in Central City's warehouse district, staring at a space where witnesses swore they'd seen a corpse 30 minutes ago. Now there was nothing. Not cleaned up, not removed. Just absent, as if reality had filed it under never happened and moved on. This is bollocks, Constantine said, not for the first time that hour. Complete total reality bending bollocks. Beside him, Zatanna traced patterns in the air, trying to read residual magic. Her fingers moved through nothing, no echo, no signature, no proof that anything supernatural had occurred here at all. 6 people called it in, she said quietly. Emergency services, police, even a regime patrol. All reported the same thing: practitioner named Chen dead, same symbol work. Now it's Tuesday morning in an empty warehouse. Constantine kicked at dust that might have been older than human memory or created 5 seconds ago. Someone's not just killing anymore, they're editing. A flash of red and black. Jiren appeared without preamble, surveying the empty space with clinical precision. His posture suggested he'd been tracking something and lost the trail. The pattern broke, Jiren said. Not a question. Patterns not broken, mate. Patterns being rewritten. Constantine pulled out his flask, discovered it empty, cursed. Whatever we're dealing with, it's playing with causality now. That's a whole different class of nightmare. Jiren's expression remained unchanged, but his pupils narrowed fractionally. Show me the reports. Zatanna conjured a holographic display. Her magic could still access stored information, even if it couldn't read the present. Witness statements materialized in glowing text, all describing the same scene, body symbols, judgment pronounced by a green-cloaked figure. Then the timestamps began changing. Not gradually, instantly. Text rewrote itself as they watched. Witness names altered. Details shifted. Within 20 seconds, the reports described a completely different incident. A simple warehouse fire. No bodies, no magic. Jesus Christ, Zatanna whispered. Jiren reached out, hand passing through the hologram. His fingers disrupted the magical construct, but the rewriting continued around the interference. Something was actively changing recorded history, and it didn't care about observers. This is not the impostor's method, Jiren said. This is escalation. Escalation. Constantine barked a laugh with no humor. This is a god having a laugh at causality's expense. We're not hunting a murderer anymore. We're being toyed with by something that can make us forget we're being toyed with. Jiren turned sharply. Then we stop allowing ourselves to be toys. He walked toward the warehouse exit, each step deliberate. Constantine and Zatanna exchanged glances, the kind that asked whether following the unstoppable force was wisdom or suicide. They followed anyway. In the Watchtower's command center, Superman reviewed the emergency protocols for the 7th time that hour. Around him, holographic displays showed troop deployments, detention center capacities, surveillance grid coverage. Every metric optimized for maximum control. 37 magic practitioners detained in the last 12 hours. Cyborg reported his human eye reflecting data streams. Another 19 have gone underground. Underground networks are fracturing under pressure. Good. Superman's arms remain crossed, cape hanging motionless in recycled air. Fear makes them careless. Careless makes them detectable. Wonder Woman entered from the corridor, concern etched in her features. Cal, we're approaching detention capacity. The cells weren't designed for this volume. Then expand them. Build new ones if necessary. Superman's tone allowed no debate. Every practitioner not under our supervision is a potential victim, or more likely a potential conspirator. Conspirator in what? Diana stepped closer, voice lowering. Most of these people heal sick children in ward homes. They're not threats. Superman finally turned to face her. They're magic. Magic killed Lois. Magic has killed 8 practitioners in 4 days. And now we have an unknown combatant who matches my strength, hunting through our streets. His jaw tightened. I will not allow chaos to return, because we showed mercy to variables we can't predict. The truth hung unspoken between them. This wasn't about magic users. This was about the Gray Warrior who'd made Superman bleed for the first time in 5 years. Every increased patrol, every expanded surveillance, every detained practitioner, all of it was Superman reasserting dominance over a world that had dared show him weakness. The people are afraid, Wonder Woman said carefully. Fear keeps them alive. Before Diana could respond, every alarm in the Watchtower shrieked simultaneously. Holographic displays erupted in cascading red. Cyborg systems overloaded trying to process the incoming data. What? Superman started. Reality breach. Cyborg managed voice distorting as his processors struggled. Massive, multiple locations. It's not Detroit anymore. His human eye went wide. It's the same city, but 3 hours earlier. People are living through their morning commute again. They don't remember. They already did this. Superman's vision went red around the edges. Location of the source. There is no source. Or there are 6 sources. Or... Cyborg's hands moved frantically across holographic controls. Boss time isn't linear in 7 American cities right now. Causality is breaking down. Then I'll break whoever's causing it. Superman was already moving toward the teleporter. Diana, full deployment. I want every available asset searching for anomalies. When we find the center... Cal. Wonder Woman's voice stopped him. What if there's no center? What if this isn't an attack we can punch? Superman's fists clenched hard enough that metal groaned. Then I'll find something I can punch until it stops. He vanished in blue teleporter light, leaving Diana and Cyborg to coordinate a response to chaos that rewrote itself faster than they could document it. The Batcave's main computer displayed 6 simultaneous feeds from cities experiencing temporal anomalies. Bruce Wayne stood motionless before the screens, mind racing through scenarios faster than most people breathed. Alfred, he said quietly. Yes, Master Bruce. Pull up every file we have on dimensional incursions, reality warpers, and fifth-dimensional beings. Cross-reference with entities capable of retroactive timeline manipulation. Pulling now, sir. Alfred's fingers moved across a secondary console. Might I inquire why you're not focusing on the immediate crisis? Because the immediate crisis is a symptom. Batman pulled up a separate screen showing thermal imaging of Gotham's industrial district, specifically the path Jiren had walked 3 hours ago. Something is testing response times, testing what kinds of chaos produce which reactions. Testing. Alfred paused. You believe this is deliberate experimentation? I believe someone is treating Earth like a laboratory, and we're the rats. Batman zoomed in on thermal signatures that shouldn't exist, footprints that registered 60 degrees hotter than ambient temperature, persisting hours after the subject passed. And I believe our gray visitor is the only variable the experimenter didn't account for. A new file appeared on the main screen, Jiren Contingency Protocols. Still mostly blank, but the framework was forming. Biological analysis inconclusive. Power source unknown. Weaknesses insufficient data. Bruce's fingers drummed once against the console, his only external sign of frustration. Sir, with respect, are you certain creating a plan to neutralize our only advantage against Superman is wise? I don't deal in advantages, Alfred. I deal in contingencies. Batman pulled up combat footage from Jiren's fight with Superman, frame-by-frame analysis, revealing patterns most people would miss. He's not our advantage. He's an unknown force pursuing his own definition of justice. That makes him unpredictable, and unpredictable means dangerous. More dangerous than reality itself breaking down. Batman didn't answer immediately. On the screens, Detroit lived through its morning rush hour. For the third time, citizens completely unaware they were trapped in a temporal loop. In Keystone City, buildings existed in 2 states simultaneously, both old and new, neither fully real. Get me Constantine, Bruce finally said. I need to know what kind of entity can rewrite causality without triggering fate's cosmic alarms. And if the answer is, nothing should be able to do that, then we're dealing with something that operates outside established frameworks. Batman's expression hardened, which means traditional methods won't contain it. Might I suggest, Alfred said carefully, that this is precisely why allying with Jiren could be. He already refused Batman's approach. Constantine confirmed that much. Bruce pulled up satellite imagery showing Jiren's current position, standing perfectly still in the center of a reality distortion field, apparently unaffected. But refusal doesn't mean lack of shared interest. He wants the impostor. We want stability. Those goals can align without alliance. The enemy of my enemy is still dangerous, but potentially useful. On the screens, Jiren remained motionless as reality warped around him, buildings aging and regressing, gravity fluctuating colors, bleeding into spectrums that hurt to perceive. And through it all, the gray warrior stood like stone in a river, unmoved by currents that should tear him apart. Batman watched, calculating, planning for scenarios where that strength turned against them. Because it always did, eventually. And Jiren stood at the epicenter of temporal chaos and felt nothing. Around him, the city of Keystone existed in 17 different time periods simultaneously. Street corners from 1950 overlapped with hovering vehicles from 2087. Citizens walked through each other, ghosts in their own lives, living moments that contradicted themselves. None of it touched him. The distortions broke against his presence like waves against bedrock. Time tried to drag him backward, forward, sideways through probability. Space attempted to fold him into contradictory positions. Causality itself suggested he should not be standing here, should not be capable of maintaining coherence, while reality fragmented. He stood anyway. Fascinating. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. High-pitched, amused, carrying the weight of something that found physics hilarious. Jiren turned slowly, tracking the source through dimensions most beings couldn't perceive. Show yourself. Why, this is much more fun. Buildings melted into liquid geometry, re-solidified as impossible architectures. Watching you just stand there, while everything breaks around you. Most beings can't do that, you know. Even Superman would be lost in this soup. You are the false judge. False Rudy. The voice giggled and a stop sign transformed into a flowering tree that immediately died and regressed to a sapling. I'm exactly as real as I need to be, which is more than I can say for this timeline, this city, or, let's be honest, you. Jiren's pupils narrowed. Explain. You're fun. Most people beg or pray or try to punch reality back into shape. You just demand clarification, like you're interviewing the universe for a job position. Another giggle, and now 3 keystones occupied the same space, phasing through each other. Fine, I'll give you a hint. I'm not here to destroy. I'm here to play. And you gray stranger are the most interesting toy I've found in centuries. I am not a toy. Everyone's a toy if you squint hard enough. The voice took on mock sympathy. But don't feel bad. You're a very impressive toy. Probably the only one who could stand in this mess without melting into probability paste. Jiren took a step forward. The ground beneath him solidified, became absolute, refused to participate in the temporal chaos. Another step. Another pocket of stability carved from chaos, through sheer will. I will find you. Jiren said each word carrying certainty. I will make you face judgment. Judgment? The voice practically squealed with delight. That's exactly what I'm testing. Whether judgment means anything when the judge can't find the defendant. Oh, this is delicious. Tell me, stoic warrior, how do you judge someone who can be in 6 places at once, or 0 places, or places that never existed? Jiren continued walking, leaving a trail of stabilized reality behind him, like footprints in snow. By making you unable to run. The laughter intensified, and now the entire city block winked out of existence, replaced with endless white void. Then back. Then a forest. Then an ocean floor. Then back again. Run. I'm not running. I'm dancing. And you? The voice paused as if considering. You're trying to catch smoke with a hammer. Admirable. Futile. But admirable. You make mistakes. Jiren stopped analyzing patterns in the chaos. Even random destruction had Tell's rhythms, preferences. You favor dramatic transitions. You enjoy observers. You need reactions. Silence. Then quieter, more careful. Smart toy. You cannot maintain this level of manipulation indefinitely. Not across multiple cities. Not while maintaining your disguises. Jiren's posture shifted fractionally. You are powerful, but power without focus exhausts itself. The world snapped back to normal keystone temporal anomalies, vanishing as if they'd never existed. Citizens continued their days, memories of the chaos already fading into dream logic. And in the sudden clarity, Jiren saw a flicker of purple fabric, a too-wide grin, a figure perhaps 3 feet tall standing on a building ledge 4 blocks away. Their eyes met. The figure waved, cheerfully blew a kiss, and vanished. But Jiren had seen enough. Shape, energy signature, the way it moved through dimensions. Not magical, not technological. Something that existed between concepts rather than within them. He filed the information, building a profile on prey that thought itself predator. Behind him, Dr. Fate materialized golden helm, reflecting nothing. The distortions have ceased, Fate observed, because you forced cessation through presence alone. No, Jiren turned to face the Lord of Order. Because I proved I could not be distracted. It is testing me, measuring responses. It will escalate. To what end? Unknown. But it desires chaos. It feeds on reaction. Jiren's black pupils held Fate's golden gaze. Your magic failed to track it. Your order cannot touch it. This creature exists in spaces your framework does not account for. Then how do we stop it? We do not stop it. Jiren looked toward where the purple figure had disappeared. We make it commit. Force it to manifest, fully remove its ability to retreat into paradox. Then, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Fate understood judgment when he heard it. That night, Superman stood alone in the Watchtower's observation deck, staring at Earth, rotating beneath him. 7 cities had experienced reality breakdowns. Millions of people had lived through contradictory timelines without remembering, and he'd been powerless to stop any of it. The comm chimed. Superman, we have reports of... I know, he said quietly. Another practitioner dead. Metropolis this time. Send containment teams. Sir, the practitioner is also alive. We're getting 2 sets of reports. One says dead, one says alive, both from reliable sources in the same moment. Superman's fists clenched until they bled. The wounds healed instantly, but the impotence remained. Sir, continue monitoring. If reality is breaking, we treat it as we would any other threat. His voice carried absolute conviction, covering absolute uncertainty. We control what we can control. He cut the comm, returned to staring at the planet he'd sworn to protect. Somewhere down there, Jiren hunted a creature Superman couldn't even perceive. Somewhere Batman planned contingencies for every possible outcome. Somewhere the world continued spinning, unaware how close it teetered to ceasing to mean anything at all. And in the spaces between moments, Mr. MXY watched them all with growing delight. The gray one was perfect. So serious, so determined, so convinced that strength and will could overcome any obstacle. This was going to be the best game yet. Time to raise the stakes. The call came at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. Batman answered on the second ring, already pulling up trace protocols. Who is this Bruce? Constantine's voice carried a quality Bruce had heard exactly twice before, both times preceding apocalyptic events. I did something phenomenally stupid, elaborate. I summoned Trigon. The line went silent for 5 full seconds. Then, why? Because Mexi's having too much fun. Superman's 3 steps from full fascist meltdown, and your gray mate can't punch his way through someone who treats physics like a suggestion. Constantine's breathing came ragged, probably from running. So I played the only card I had left, bigger monster. You traded one reality warper for another. Batman's voice dropped to absolute 0. One that feeds on suffering. One that feeds on order, actually. Trigon's a tyrant, yeah, but tyrants hate tricksters. And I told him might have slightly exaggerated that Superman's been holding his daughter hostage. Raven. Bingo. The big red bastard thinks Cal's got her locked up in some magic-proof fortress, which, given Superman's current detain all practitioners kick, isn't exactly implausible. Constantine's laugh carried no humor. Trigon's en route. Should arrive in about 6 minutes, and he's not coming for tea. Batman was already moving systems activating across the cave. You've accelerated the timeline to catastrophe. We were already there, mate. I just lit the fuse so we'd know where the explosion's coming from. A pause. Also, Maxey knows. Pretty sure he knows. Which means the call cut off mid-sentence. Not dropped, erased. As if the conversation had been deleted from causality. Batman stared at the comm for 3 seconds, then initiated emergency protocols. Whatever Constantine had started, it was too late to stop. The pieces were moving, and the board was about to catch fire. Jiren felt the change before he saw it. The air grew heavier, charged with malice, older than human civilization. Colors shifted toward red-black at the edges of perception. And somewhere in the dimensional fabric, something massive was forcing its way through barriers meant to keep realities separate. He turned toward the disturbance already moving. Behind him, the street where he'd been hunting dissolved into probability soup MXY's handiwork, still playing with local space-time. But the demon's arrival took priority. A rift tore open above Metropolis Harbor, and hell came through. Trigon emerged in his true form, 4 eyes burning like dying stars, horns that scraped against the sky itself, body radiating heat that turned harbor water to steam instantly. His voice shook buildings when he spoke. "Where is my daughter?" The regime responded within seconds. Drones, aircraft, ground forces, everything Superman had positioned for rapid deployment. They opened fire with weapons designed to kill gods. Trigon swatted them aside like insects. Metal twisted, energy dissipated. Soldiers fell screaming as their minds touched something too vast to comprehend. "Superman!" The Demon Lord's roar shattered glass across 6 city blocks. "Show yourself, Kryptonian, return what you have stolen." And Superman came dropping from the sky like divine judgment, heat vision already blazing. The beams struck Trigon's chest, actually pushing the demon backward 3 steps. "Raven is not your property," Superman said, voice carrying across the chaos. "She's under protection from you." "Protection?" Trigon laughed, and the sound made reality wince. "You speak of protection while building cages, while hunting those who would resist your order." 4 eyes narrowed. "You are no different from me, Kryptonian. We are both tyrants who dress conquest in mercy's clothing." Superman's jaw tightened. "I am nothing like you. Prove it. Release my daughter." "Never." They clashed, and the harbor exploded. Jiren arrived mid-combat, assessing the variables. Superman and Trigon traded blows that could crack continents. Regime forces scrambled to evacuate civilians while maintaining perimeter. And somewhere in the chaos, MXY's presence tickled at the edge of perception, watching, waiting, enjoying. A small purple figure materialized on a shipping container, legs dangling cheerfully, no longer disguised, no longer pretending. Just Mr. MXY in his true form, 3 feet tall, oversized headsuit and bowler hat, vibrating with barely contained glee. "Isn't this wonderful?" MXY called over the destruction. Big fish, little pond, everyone trying to be the hero. Jiren's attention snapped to him. "You orchestrated this." "Orchestrated, I prefer, narratively facilitated." "I wasn't killing magicians, Gray Man. I was editing the cast, removing supporting characters who'd muddy the climax." MXY gestured at the battling titans. "And now we have it, the authoritarian and the demon fighting over who gets to define protection. It's thematically perfect." "You used Constantine. Constantine used himself. I just suggested the idea. Planted it like a seed in his desperate little mind." MXY hopped down, walking toward Jiren with zero concern for his safety. "You know what's funny? Everyone thinks I'm chaos. But I'm not. I'm narrative structure given form, and every good story needs escalation." Jiren took a step forward. MXY didn't retreat. I can make you a villain in one sentence, the imp said conversationally. Try. MXY's grin widened impossibly. Jiren of Universe 11 arrived in a dying world and chose to let it burn rather than compromise his rigid definition of justice. Nothing changed. No narrative weight shifted. No cosmic rewrite occurred. Jiren remained exactly who he'd been 1 second prior. MXY's smile faltered for the first time. Huh. That's new? Your power requires acceptance. Jiren said, closing distance. You rewrite those who doubt themselves, who question their nature. I do not doubt. I do not question. I am what I am. Everyone questions. I do not. The absolute certainty in those 3 words made MXY actually step backward. His expression shifted from amused to genuinely intrigued. Okay, you're fun. You're really fun. The imp's eyes gleamed. But let's see how absolute your will is when I do this. He snapped his fingers. Metropolis vanished. Not destroyed. Not teleported. Simply ceased to exist in the present tense. Buildings, people, infrastructure, all of it rewound to 3 hours ago. The city living through late afternoon, again completely unaware of the demon fight that had just occurred. Except Jiren remained in the now empty harbor. And Trigon. And Superman frozen mid-punch as he processed the discontinuity. See, the trick isn't rewriting you, MXY explained, walking circles around Jiren like a lecturer. It's rewriting everything else. You stay constant, fine. But when the story around you changes, what's constant except isolated, irrelevant? Jiren scanned the empty harbor. No civilians to protect, no collateral to prevent. Just combatants in a space MXY had carved from the timeline. You have made a mistake, Jiren said quietly. Have I? You have given me what I wanted? A battlefield without innocence. He moved. MXY's eyes went wide. He tried to reality shift away, but Jiren's hand closed around his throat before the imp could complete the thought. Not crushing, just holding, preventing escape. No, MXY's voice pitched higher. You can't touch me, I'm conceptual. You gave yourself physical form to gloat. Jiren lifted him to eye level. That was your mistake. Behind them, Superman recovered from the temporal displacement, taking in the scene Jiren holding something small and purple. The city gone Trigon raging in an empty harbor. What is that? Superman demanded. Your manipulator. Jiren tightened his grip slightly. MXY squeaked. The source of your false judgments. The creature that has been playing both sides. XY struggled, reality warping around them in desperate spirals. The harbor became a desert, then an ocean floor, then abstract geometry. But Jiren's grip never faltered, his presence anchoring them to something more fundamental than location. Let me go, and I'll fix everything. MXY gasped. I'll send Trigon back. I'll restore the timeline. You will do those things regardless, Jiren said. After I break your focus sufficiently. He squeezed. MXY screamed, and the scream rewrote itself mid-sound into laughter, into sobbing, into digital static. His form flickered, imp, human abstract shape, living equation imp again. Each shift cost him concentration. Each loss of concentration made the next shift harder. You're hurting narrative structure itself, MXY wheezed. Good. Superman landed beside them, hand raised to intervene, then hesitating. The tactical part of his mind recognized opportunity. This creature had destabilized his entire regime. but the part that still remembered being a hero recognized something else. "Jiren," Superman said carefully, "if you kill it, we don't know what happens to reality. I am not killing it. I am teaching it to fear consequence." Trigon's roar interrupted them. The Demon Lord had noticed the temporal displacement, the missing city, and was redirecting his fury at the obvious source, MXY. Trickster. Hellfire gathered in Trigon's hands, reality itself screaming at the concentration of demonic energy. "You dare manipulate me." "Oh, bollocks," MXY muttered. Three forces converged. Superman's demand for order, Trigon's demonic rage, and Jiren's absolute will. MXY found himself at the center, his reality-warping powers suddenly occupied with self-preservation rather than games. He laughed. Actually laughed despite everything. "This is better than I planned," he wheezed through Jiren's grip. "This is perfect." The authoritarian, the demon, and the judge all focused on me, all trying to define control through force. "Don't you see? You're all the same." "We are not," Superman started. "You're tyrants." MXY's voice rose desperate and delighted simultaneously. "Different flavors, same core Trigon rules through fear. Superman through control, and you." His eyes fixed on Jiren. "You're the worst kind, the one who thinks absolute certainty equals righteousness." Jiren's grip didn't waver. "I have seen true righteousness corrupted. I will not allow it to happen again." "Then what's Superman?" The question hung in the air like poison. Superman's expression hardened. Trigon paused mid-summoning and Jiren's pupils narrowed fractionally. "Superman is what happens," Jiren said quietly. "When justice forgets, it serves people, not power." The words struck harder than any physical blow. Superman's jaw clenched, heat building behind his eyes, not in attack, but in barely contained emotion. "You don't understand what I've sacrificed. I understand perfectly. You sacrificed principles for results. That is always the tyrant's justification." Before Superman could respond, MXY's form began vibrating violently, reality struggling to contain him under combined pressure from three apex forces. Okay, the imp shrieked. "Everyone step back or I detonate." Full reality collapse. Everything goes white void and you start from scratch. He wasn't bluffing. The air cracked, space folded, and causality itself began experiencing syntax errors. Batman's voice cut through every comm system simultaneously. "Jiren, release him. Dr. Fate is ready with containment." "Containment will not hold him," Jiren replied. "No, but it will buy time. And time is what we need to fix Constantine's mistake properly." Jiren processed this, weighed the variables, then against every instinct opened his hand. MXY dropped immediately, trying to phase away. But golden light erupted around him, Dr. Fate's magic not restraining, but redirecting, pushing him toward a specific location. "The Tower of Fate has been prepared." Fate's voice resonated. "Shazam and Nightwing are ready with the sealing ritual." "Sealing?" MXY's eyes went wide. No, you can't seal narrative itself. Watch us." Batman's voice carried grim satisfaction. MXY's form destabilized further. But this time not from attack, from being pulled toward a prison designed specifically for fifth-dimensional beings. The same prison that had held him before years ago, during Year 3. "Not again!" MXY screamed, and in desperation, he did the only thing he could think of. He rewrote Superman. The Kryptonian froze mid-breath, then blinked. His expression shifted subtly, confusion replacing certainty. doubt creeping in where absolute control had lived. "What did you do?" Superman whispered. "I reminded you," MXY shrieked as golden light consumed him. "I reminded you of the moment you could have chosen differently. When Lois's heartbeat was fading, and you had 1 second, 1 perfect second to save her instead of hunting the Joker." Superman staggered as alternate memories crashed through his mind. A timeline where he'd chosen rescue over revenge, where Lois lived, where Metropolis stood, where he'd remained a symbol of hope instead of becoming a monument to control. But it was false, a cruel fiction. And he knew it was false even as it hurt like truth. "You bastard!" Superman lunged at the imp. Too late. Golden light swallowed MXY completely, and he vanished with one final laugh that promised nothing was truly over. Silence fell across the empty harbor. Then Trigon's voice shattered it. "Where is my daughter?" And the real battle began. It says, "In the House of Mystery, Constantine watched through scrying mirrors as hell literally broke loose. I've made a terrible mistake," he said to no one in particular. Zatanna materialized beside him, face pale. Trigon thinks Superman kidnapped Raven. Superman thinks Trigon is another threat to control. And Jiren's the only one in that entire clusterfuck who still knows what justice actually means. Constantine reached for his flask, found it empty, threw it at the wall. And that's the problem. Because real justice in that situation means letting them all tear each other apart until someone's willing to listen. "Bruce said you gave him 6 minutes. I may have underestimated Trigon's travel time. How long do we actually have?" Constantine checked the mirrors again. Trigon and Superman had resumed combat now, with Jiren caught between them. Not fighting either side, just preventing total mutual destruction. "Until one of them remembers Raven's actual location," he said grimly. "Then Trigon goes nuclear. Superman goes full tyrant to stop him and Jiren. Judges them both. Yeah. Except you can't judge a demon lord and a fallen god in the middle of Metropolis without the city reappeared. Not gradually, instantly. 3 hours of lived experience for 6 million people suddenly layering back into existence like a corrupted save file loading. Citizens stumbled disoriented, experiencing phantom memories of events that both did and didn't happen. And in the center of the returning city, 3 titans prepared to tear each other apart. Constantine grabbed his comm. "Bruce, tell me you have the containment ready." Shazam, Nightwing, and Dr. Fate are in position, but they need 10 seconds of clear space to complete the ritual. 10 seconds, right. And how exactly do we get 3 walking apocalypses to hold still for 10 bloody seconds? That, Batman's voice carried dark certainty, is why I called in our last resort. On the scrying mirror, a new figure appeared at the battlefield's edge. Wonder Woman wearing armor. Constantine had only seen once before the kind she wore when she'd decided mercy was no longer an option. "Oh, bloody hell," Constantine whispered. "Bruce, that's escalation, not de-escalation. That's the point. We can't calm this down. So we direct the chaos exactly where we need it." Batman's voice never wavered. 10 seconds, John. That's all I need." The comm cut off. And in Metropolis, the final pieces moved into position for a confrontation that would determine whether justice could exist at all in a world where gods refused to listen. The sky over Metropolis cracked. Not metaphorically, not as poetic imagery. The atmospheric dome above 6 million people developed visible fractures like safety glass after impact, spreading in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Citizens stopped mid-stride staring upward at impossibility made manifest. Traffic halted. Emergency services froze. For 3 full seconds, the entire city held its breath. Then someone screamed, and panic became pandemic. Wonder Woman hit the battlefield at terminal velocity, bracers raised. She landed between Trigon and Superman hard enough to crater pavement, creating a buffer zone through sheer presence. Enough! Her voice carried divine authority learned from gods who actually deserve the title. This ends. Now. Trigon regarded her with 4 burning eyes. Stand aside, Amazon. This does not concern Themyscira. It concerns Earth. That makes it mine. Diana's bracers began to glow, absorbing ambient energy from both combatants. Cal, stand down. We need to coordinate, not escalate. Superman's heat vision still simmered at the edge of activation. He's hunting Raven. I won't let... Raven is safe. Batman's voice cut through every communication device in the area simultaneously. She's in the Tower of Fate under protection. Constantine lied to Trigon. This entire confrontation was manufactured. Trigon's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. Manufactured. You were deceived. Used as a weapon by something that feeds on chaos. Batman's tone remained clinical, delivering facts like a diagnosis. Stand down, or become the monster they want you to be. For 5 heartbeats, Trigon considered simply incinerating everything within a mile radius out of principle. Then his gaze found Jiren standing apart from the confrontation, observing with those lightless pupils. You, Trigon said. You do not belong in this realm. No, Jiren agreed. Yet you judge us. Someone must. The Demon Lord's laugh rumbled like tectonic plates grinding. And what makes you qualified to judge a being older than your universe? Jiren's expression never shifted. You allow yourself to be manipulated. That disqualifies you from judging others. Trigon's eyes flared white-hot, but before he could respond, the fractured sky pulsed. Reality hiccuped. And suddenly, there were 2 Supermans. One in his standard regime armor, one in the red and blue suit from before Metropolis burned. Standing side by side, both equally real, both looking at each other with dawning horror. What? They said simultaneously. Then regime Superman flickered and vanished, leaving only the original standing, confused in armor he'd put on hours ago. MXY's laughter echoed from nowhere and everywhere. Oops. Sorry, did I leave a draft copy visible? Sometimes I forget to clean up my edits. Wonder Woman spun, scanning for the source. Show yourself, coward. Coward, I'm right here. Multiple MXYs appeared scattered across the battlefield on rubble floating mid-air, sitting on Trigon's shoulder, each one grinning identically. Well, I'm somewhere here. Maybe all these places' quantum narrative superposition is so fun. Batman's voice stayed level despite everything. Dr. Fate, can you lock onto his true position? There is no true position. Fate responded, his own form manifesting at the battlefield's edge. He exists in narrative probability. All positions are equally real until observation forces singular state. English, please, Constantine muttered through the comm. We can't catch him because he's every bloody where until we look, then he's somewhere else. One of the MXYs hopped down, approaching Jiren specifically. You know what I realized? You're all doing the same thing. Different costumes, same core concept. He gestured at Superman, Trigon, Jiren in sequence. Absolute certainty, unwavering conviction. I know what's right, and I'll impose it through superior force. You're all tyrants, just different flavors. I do not rule, Jiren stated. No, you judge, which is ruling by another name. MXY's grin somehow widened further. You decide who deserves what based on your inflexible standards. How's that different from Superman deciding who gets freedom based on whether they threaten his order? Superman's jaw tightened. I am nothing like... See, he doesn't even hear it. MXY pointed at Superman with both hands. The tyrant never does. They're always the hero in their own story. Just like you. He spun toward Jiren. The absolute judge who knows better than everyone. The one whose certainty justifies any action. The difference, Jiren said quietly, is I do not demand obedience. No, you just demolish anyone who doesn't meet your standards. Much better. Jiren took a step forward. The ground beneath his foot solidified more real than the reality soup MXY had been creating. Another step. Another patch of absolute certainty carved from narrative chaos. MXY's grin faltered slightly. Hey, we talked about this. You can't just... You spoke. I ignored. Jiren continued advancing each footfall, rejecting MXY's rewrites through sheer will. Your words require doubt to take hold. I do not doubt. Everyone doubts. I do not. The absolute conviction in those 3 words made several of the MXY copies flicker. Narrative uncertainty infected the imp's certainty, creating feedback loops in his own consciousness. Okay. All the MXYs spoke at once. You want to play hardball? Let's see how you handle this. Reality inverted. Up became down. Gravity reversed. Colors shifted through impossible spectrums. And everyone except Jiren found themselves falling skyward, scrabbling for purchase on nothing. Jiren remained planted, boots locked to conceptual ground that refused to acknowledge the change. He looked up now, down at the others, struggling with altered physics. Cheap, he assessed. Effective. MXY's voice came from a direction that didn't exist. See? I'm not trying to rewrite you anymore. I'm just rewriting everything else. Make you the constant while the world changes. Eventually, you'll be so isolated, so irrelevant. Jiren's hand shot out, grabbed something invisible, and pulled. MXY materialized mid-sentence, actually surprised, caught in a grip on his actual physical form. How did you... You need a connection point, a tether to enact changes. Jiren lifted him, studying the imp like a specimen. When you alter physics, you must exist within them momentarily to establish new rules. That moment is vulnerability. That's not how narrative manipulation works. It is how all power works. Action requires position. Jiren's grip tightened fractionally, and position creates target. He hurled MXY toward the fractured sky. The imp tumbled upward, downward, sideways through dimensions, his own physics rewrite turning against him. He shrieked, tried to phase, found Jiren's throw had too much will force behind it for easy escape. Gravity snapped back to normal. Everyone fell the correct direction again. And MXY slammed into the fractured atmospheric dome with force that made the cracks spread wider. The sky began actively breaking. Chunks of blue atmosphere fell away, revealing white void underneath. Not space, not anything. Just absence where reality should continue. Oh, MXY said from somewhere in the falling pieces. Oh, this is bad. This is actually bad. I think I broke the set. Fix it. Superman roared, already flying toward the spreading void. Heat vision lashed out, trying to cauterize the wounds in reality. It accomplished nothing. I can't, the structure's too damaged. I was just playing with surface narrative, but you... MXY's voice pitched toward genuine panic. You punched through to the framework, the actual framework, Nobody's supposed to be able to do that. Jiren landed beside Wonder Woman, both watching the sky crumble like stale bread. He lost control. "Can you fix this?" Diana asked, already knowing the answer. "No, my strength does not rebuild. It only breaks what should not stand." Helpful? Dr. Fate began weaving containment spells trying to stabilize the fractures. The magic held for 5 seconds before the framework itself rejected the patch. The damage exceeds metaphysical repair. We need the source to reverse his changes. "The source is having a breakdown," Constantine shouted from his remote location. "He's a reality warper who just realized he warped something that wasn't supposed to warp." Batman's voice cut through the chaos with surgical precision. "Jiren, you forced him to fight directly instead of manipulating from safety. Can you force him to concentrate long enough to repair what he broke?" Jiren watched pieces of sky fall, revealing more void. "Yes, then do it. We'll handle containment. You misunderstand." Jiren's gaze found where MXY cowered among the falling reality shards. "I will force him to choose repair this world or be removed from it permanently." Superman landed beside them, face hard. "If killing him collapses reality, then we discover if reality is stronger than narrative." Jiren kicked off pursuing MXY through disintegrating atmosphere. "Prepare your ritual. You will have 10 seconds." He vanished upward, leaving Superman and Wonder Woman to coordinate a plan that had too many variables and not enough certainty. "I don't trust him," Superman said quietly. Diana looked at him with something close to pity. "Right now, Cal, I trust him more than I trust you." The words hit harder than Trigon's punches. Superman's heat vision flickered at the edges, more from emotion than threat. "I have kept this world together by crushing it, by treating people like problems to manage instead of lives to protect." Diana's voice stayed gentle despite the razor edge. "Jiren sees that. The demon sees that. Everyone sees it except you. Then everyone is wrong. Or you are." Before Superman could respond, the fractures spread to Gotham, then Tokyo, then 7 more major cities simultaneously. The sky cracked like an eggshell, and underneath nothing. Pure, absolute nothing. Citizens looked up and saw the absence of existence itself, and madness became epidemic. Hospitals flooded. Emergency services collapsed under volume. Every communication system on the planet screamed different versions of the same question: what is happening? In the Watchtower, cyborg systems experienced cascading failures, trying to comprehend sensor data that contradicted itself. "Boss, I'm losing coherent readings. Physics is becoming optional. Temperature readings show both absolute zero and infinite heat in the same locations. Timestamps are..." His voice cut off. The Watchtower's lights flickered. Then darkness. Then nothing. The satellite station didn't explode or power down. It simply ceased maintaining consistent existence, phasing between present and absent too rapidly to track. On the ground, Batman watched his contingency plans dissolve like sugar in rain. Every backup system he'd prepared assumed reality would continue operating under known laws. When those laws became suggestions, his preparation meant nothing. "Bloody hell," Constantine whispered, watching his scrying mirrors show 17 contradictory versions of the same events. The world's not just slipping, it's evaporating. High in the fragmenting sky, Jiren caught MXY by the collar once more. The imp struggled, but his power was occupied trying to maintain his own coherence as everything he touched began unraveling. "Fix it," Jiren demanded. "I can't. The changes cascade. Every edit creates side effects, and those effects create more effects, and it's recursive exponential. I can't contain it. Then we both fall. Jiren's tone carried no fear, just statement of fact. Your games end here. You'll die. Everyone will die. The whole universe will just stop. Then it stops. Jiren pulled him closer, black pupils boring into MXY's panicked eyes. But it stops with you answering for your actions. That is justice. For the first time in his incomprehensibly long existence, Mr. MXY experienced genuine terror. Not the fun kind. The real kind. The kind that came from meeting something that valued principles over survival. You're insane, MXY whispered. I am absolute. The sky cracked wider. Metropolis began phasing through 7 alternate versions of itself simultaneously. Reality's framework groaned under contradictions it was never built to sustain. And somewhere below, Dr. Fate Shazam and Nightwing prepared a ritual that required 10 seconds of stable space-time to complete. 10 seconds they didn't have. Unless someone could force a reality warper to stop laughing and start fixing. Jiren met MXY's terrified gaze and spoke with absolute certainty. Choose now. The fractures stopped spreading, not healed, not reversed, just paused. As if reality itself was holding its breath, waiting for the 5th-dimensional being to decide whether existence deserved to continue. MXY looked down at the crumbling world, then back at Jiren's unwavering conviction. And for the first time in centuries, the trickster stopped playing. 10 seconds, he whispered. Give me 10 seconds and I'll try. Jiren released him. Not gently, but with the understanding that some battles end not in victory, but in forcing your opponent to see consequences. Begin. MXY spread his hands and reality began the painful process of remembering how to be real. 10 seconds. MXY's hands wove patterns through dimensions humans couldn't perceive, pulling at threads of causality like a surgeon trying to reattach severed nerves. The cracks in the atmosphere began to close slowly, painfully, reality stitching itself back together, one impossible seam at a time. 7 seconds. Superman watched from below, calculating whether to intervene. Trust the imp who'd orchestrated this disaster, or seize the moment when it was vulnerable. His fists opened and closed. Tactical analysis warred with damaged pride. 5 seconds. Jiren descended gradually, maintaining visual lock on MXY. If the creature tried to flee mid-repair, he'd end the threat permanently. Let the universe sort out the consequences. 3 seconds. The fractures sealed. Atmosphere solidified. Physics remembered how to be consistent. Citizens looked up at a whole sky again and exhaled collective relief they didn't understand. 0. MXY sagged exhausted from an effort that shouldn't have been possible. 5th-dimensional beings didn't get tired. They existed beyond fatigue. But forcing reality to unknit itself, then reknit, left even conceptual entities drained. There, he gasped. Fixed. Happy now. No, Jiren said from directly behind him. MXY spun, but too late. Jiren's hand closed around his shoulder. Not crushing, but anchoring, preventing dimensional escape. Because you will attempt this again. I won't. I learned my lesson. Playing with framework, bad. Staying surface level, good. You are lying. Jiren pulled him closer, those lightless pupils reflecting nothing. You are a creature that exists to manipulate. The moment you recover, you will resume your games. MXY's expression shifted. Exhaustion faded. The wide-eyed panic dissolved into something colder, more calculating. You know what? His voice dropped, losing the manic edge. You're right, I would. Because this... He gestured at the repaired atmosphere. This isn't a solution. It's a patch. A temporary fix on a fundamentally broken system. The system was stable before you arrived. The system was rotting. MXY twisted in Jiren's grip, not trying to escape now, just repositioning for conversation. You think Superman's regime appeared overnight? You think these people just woke up one day and decided tyranny was great? No. They've been decaying for years. I'm just the mold making it visible. Then I will remove the mold. And the rot beneath the fundamental corruption that made someone like me possible? MXY's grin returned sharper now. You can't punch away systemic failure, gray man. You can only make it bleed. Jiren's grip tightened fractionally. Then it bleeds. He threw MXY toward the ground. The imp tumbled through air, tried to phase, found his powers sluggish from the repair effort. He hit pavement with enough force to crater concrete, then immediately rolled as Jiren's boot came down where his head had been. The strike obliterated 3 city blocks worth of abandoned infrastructure in its shockwave. Superman arrived instantly. Stop! He just repaired. He repaired what he broke. Jiren didn't break stride pursuing MXY as the imp scrambled backward. That does not absolve him. We need him stable. If you push him, he will fight or he will die. Either outcome ends this game. MXY's back hit a building that promptly ceased existing, replaced with empty air. He'd rewritten it reflexively, reverting to manipulation instead of facing direct combat. But Jiren walked through the space where the building should have been unaffected by the edit. His boot found solid ground that MXY's power insisted wasn't there. How MXY started? Jiren punched him through 17 city blocks. The blow wasn't aimed to kill. It was aimed to send a message. Your tricks delay. They do not prevent. MXY tumbled through debris, through traffic, through a plaza where people had just begun returning to normal life. He phased through them to avoid collateral damage. Even now, some part of him wanted an audience, not corpses, and came to rest against the Metropolis courthouse. Okay, he wheezed, pulling himself upright. Okay, you want serious? We'll do serious. He snapped his fingers. The world inverted, not physically, narratively. Every building in Metropolis suddenly existed in 2 states, as it was now, and as it had been before Superman's regime. Before the Joker's bomb. Before Lois died. The city phased between hope and despair so rapidly that citizens experienced both versions simultaneously, minds fragmenting under contradictory memories. Superman saw it happening, saw people clutching their heads, saw the city becoming unstable again, and made his choice. He hit MXY at supersonic speed. The impact generated a sonic boom that shattered windows for miles. MXY flew backward, unprepared for Superman's intervention on Jiren's behalf. He crashed through the courthouse, reducing it to rubble. You want to play with my city? Superman's heat vision blazed. I'll show you what protection actually means. He opened fire and Metropolis became a war zone. In the House of Mystery, Batman watched through hastily repaired scrying mirrors as his worst-case scenario manifested. Superman and Jiren both pursuing MXY with lethal intent. The imp dodging, rewriting, trying to survive forces he'd wildly underestimated. This is escalating beyond containment, Dr. Fate said, Golden Helm, reflecting scenes of destruction. If they breach dimensional barriers in their pursuit, they will. Batman's fingers flew across holographic controls, routing all available insurgency assets to evacuation zones. MXY's backed against a wall. He'll use every trick he has. That means pocket realities, dimensional shunts, probability manipulation. And when those tricks intersect with Jiren's force and Superman's rage, Zatanna asked quietly, the walls between worlds start thinning. Batman pulled up seismic data showing reality stress points across the planet. 7 major cities, 46 minor locations, all of them beginning to resonate with the combat in Metropolis. We're looking at cascade failure. Not just here, everywhere. Constantine appeared from a side passage, looking worse than usual. Got news from the Mystic Channels. The Tower of Fate's shields are holding, but barely. Trigon's still loose, angry, confused, and very interested in all the dimensional instability. And something else is paying attention. Elaborate. Something from outside. Something that lives in the spaces between realities. Constantine lit a cigarette with trembling hands. MXY's games have been like ringing a dinner bell for things that eat broken universes. Batman processed this. Additional variables, additional threats. The kind of scenario where every solution created 3 new problems. What's our window for containment? We're past it for survival. Constantine exhaled smoke. However long it takes one of those 3 idiots to realize they're not fighting an enemy. They're fighting each other's reflection. Batman stared at the scrying mirror, showing Superman and Jiren converging on MXY from opposite directions. 2 unstoppable forces, 1 reality-warping trickster, and a city full of innocents caught between. He made the call. All insurgency assets, full evacuation protocol. Get everyone underground. Hardened bunkers, lead-lined shelters, anything that can survive dimensional collapse. His voice stayed level despite knowing the impossibility of his order. We're not stopping this. We're weathering it. Bruce! Diana's voice cut through the calm. Diana, you cannot hold them. None of us can. Superman's lost perspective, Jiren never had it, and MXY's fighting for his existence. Batman pulled up satellite imagery showing the dimensional stress spreading like cracks in ice. Your job isn't to stop them. It's to keep the collateral below extinction level. A pause. Then, understood. The comm closed. Batman returned to the tactical displays, running scenarios he knew were futile. But futile action was better than paralysis. Behind him, Constantine muttered something that might have been a prayer or might have been a curse. Given the situation, probably both. MXY stood in the center of a crater that used to be Metropolis General Hospital, evacuated, thankfully, during the earlier chaos. Superman approached from the east, heat vision ready. Jiren descended from above, completely calm, despite the devastation around them. All right, MXY said, raising his hands. Time out. Seriously. We need to talk about this. Talking is finished. Jiren landed 10 feet away. I'm done listening to you, Superman added from the other side. Great. Wonderful. Love the synchronicity. MXY looked between them, seeking any opening for negotiation. But here's the thing. You're both doing exactly what I wanted. You're tearing each other apart while pretending you're fighting me. You started this, Superman said. You enabled it, Jiren corrected. See what I mean? MXY gestured frantically. You can't even agree on who's responsible. Because you're both responsible. You're both tyrants who think absolute conviction equals righteousness. And I'm just the mirror showing you what you actually are. Enough. Jiren advanced. MXY snapped his fingers. The world folded. Not breaking folding like origami made from space-time. Metropolis compressed into a sphere 50 feet across with the 3 of them at the center. Building streets infrastructure all crammed into impossible geometry that shouldn't physically work but did because MXY said so. Pocket reality, he announced. Population 3, rules mine. Let's see how your punching solves conceptual imprisonment. Jiren tested the barrier. His fist struck dimensional fabric and found it elastic rather than solid. Force dissipated into the fold, achieving nothing. Superman tried heat vision. The beams curved back, nearly hitting him before he dodged. Welcome to my world, MXY said, settling cross-legged on nothing. Where physics is a suggestion, and I'm the only one who can suggest alternatives. You want out? You'll need to understand narrative structure, master dimensional mathematics, accept that some problems can't be solved through violence. Or, Jiren said quietly, I break the problem. He closed his eyes. MXY frowned. What are you? Jiren's aura manifested. Not visible as light or energy, visible as presence, as the kind of will that bent reality not through manipulation, but through sheer refusal to accept limitation. The pocket dimension began to tear, not from the outside in, from the inside out. Jiren's existence rejected the constraints, and the constraints couldn't hold against something that fundamentally didn't care about their rules. That's impossible, MXY stammered. You can't just will yourself through dimensional barriers. I can. Jiren opened his eyes. Because you made a mistake. You assumed I needed to understand your system to escape it. He punched forward. The pocket reality shattered like glass. They fell back into normal space, or what passed for normal, in a metropolis that had been folded, unfolded, and was now remembering how geometry worked. Buildings settled into approximately correct positions. Streets reconnected with approximate accuracy. Everything was slightly wrong in ways that would take years to notice and decades to fix. MXY stared at Jiren with something approaching respect. You're not just strong. You're narratively dense. Your presence has more weight than my edits. Yes. That shouldn't be possible in... Jiren grabbed him by the face. The grip wasn't gentle. It was the kind that said, this is your last warning expressed through physical contact. MXY's eyes went wide, his usual confidence evaporating as he realized he'd miscalculated badly. I am removing you, Jiren said. From this world, from this dimension, from any place where your games can harm others. You can't exile me, I'll just come back. I always come back. Not from where you are going. Superman landed beside them, scanning the dimensional instability rippling across the city. Jiren, if you send him somewhere and he destabilizes there, he will destabilize nothing because he will be contained. Jiren lifted MXY, holding him at arm's length. Dr. Fate, you prepared a prison. Fate's voice resonated across the city. The ritual is ready, but it requires sacrifice. Someone must anchor the seal from inside. I will provide the anchor. No. Superman's hand landed on Jiren's shoulder. If you go in, we lose the only force capable of stopping him if he escapes. Then what do you suggest? Jiren's tone suggested he already knew and didn't like it. We send them both. Wonder Woman arrived flanked by Shazam and Nightwing. MXY and Trigon, two reality warpers, each one's presence canceling the other's power, mutual containment. MXY's eyes went even wider. No, not again. I spent 3 years locked with that demon last time. Do you know what that's like? I do not care. Jiren looked to Fate. Can this be done? Yes. But someone must escort them to the threshold. Someone strong enough to resist both warpers simultaneously. I will do it. Jiren, Superman started. You will remain here. Your world needs repair, and you need to decide if you will rebuild it or rule it. Jiren met Superman's gaze. Make the correct choice this time. Before Superman could respond, golden light erupted from Fate's position. A portal opened, not to another place, but to the space between places. The void where Trigon and MXY had been imprisoned before. The cage that had held until someone's games weakened the locks. Bring the demon, Fate commanded. We seal them both. Now. Trigon appeared as if summoned, drawn by the dimensional instability, by the scent of potential conquest. 4 eyes blazed with hellfire, ready to capitalize on the chaos. Instead, he found Jiren holding MXY Wonder Woman, raising her lasso, and a portal to his previous prison yawning open before him. No, Trigon rumbled. I will not be caged again. You will, Jiren said. Or you will be destroyed. Choose. They clashed Titan against Demon Principle against Malice. The city buckled under the impact. Superman joined not because he trusted Jiren, but because Trigon represented the chaos he'd spent 5 years trying to eliminate. And MXY caught between them, all realized something important: he had stopped being the storyteller. Now he was just a character in someone else's ending. The battle raged toward the portal, and Metropolis held its breath, wondering if dawn would ever break again. The threshold burned, not with fire, with absence. The space between dimensions where MXY and Trigon had been sealed before now gaped open, like a surgical wound maintained only by Dr. Fate's will and Shazam's channeled lightning. Nightwing stood at the perimeter as Eskrima sticks, glowing with borrowed magic, ready to shore up weak points in the containment circle. Jiren dragged MXY toward it. The imp thrashed reality, warping in desperate spirals around them. Buildings aged centuries in seconds, regressed to blueprint sketches solidified again. But Jiren's grip never wavered. His presence created an anchor too heavy for conceptual escape. Wait, 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 MXY shrieked. We can negotiate, I'll behave. I'll only do small tricks, birthday parties and card tricks, I swear. You will do nothing. Jiren lifted him like debris being cleared. You had chances. You chose games. Superman landed beside them, blocking their path to the threshold. Blood streaked his costume from a dozen minor wounds. Nothing serious, everything symbolic. For the first time in 5 years, he looked mortal. Jiren. Superman's voice carried weight despite exhaustion. If you seal them both, who guarantees they stay sealed? The barrier will hold if properly anchored. And who anchors it? Before Jiren could respond, Trigon erupted from the ruins of City Hall, 4 eyes blazing with hellfire, concentrated enough to melt titanium. I will not be caged. The Demon Lord's blast carved a canyon through downtown Metropolis. Jiren sidestepped, pulling MXY with him. Superman intercepted, taking the brunt of the infernal energy on his chest. His uniform charred, skin blistered, then healed. Enough! Superman roared and hit Trigon with everything he had left. They collided like apocalypses made flesh. The shockwave leveled 12 city blocks. Civilians, those who hadn't evacuated, found themselves blown off their feet, saved only by Wonder Woman's hastily erected barrier of divine energy. We're out of time. Batman's voice cut through every operational comm frequency. Fate, can you stabilize the threshold? For 90 seconds, no more. The strain exceeds even my limits. Fate's form flickered, golden helm dimming. After that, the barrier collapses inward. Everything within 20 miles gets pulled through. Batman's mind raced through scenarios. All of them ended badly. Nightwing Shazam. How long to complete the ceiling? 30 seconds. Shazam's voice strained under the weight of maintaining magical current. But only if both targets are inside the threshold simultaneously. Then we have 60 seconds to force two reality warpers into a cage. They'll fight with everything they have to avoid. Constantine's voice carried grim amusement. Bloody, marvelous odds. Jiren didn't waste breath on planning. He accelerated toward the threshold, dragging MXY despite the imp's escalating attempts to rewrite local causality. Each step carved stability through chaos. Each footfall rejected whatever MXY tried to impose. "Let me go." MXY's voice cracked. "I'll leave. I'll go to another dimension, another universe. You'll never see me again." I have heard these promises before. Jiren reached the threshold's edge. Heat radiated from the tear between worlds, not temperature, but the sensation of reality grinding against non-reality. They are always lies. He threw MXY toward the opening. The imp twisted mid-flight fingers, weaving patterns that bent space into knots. He tried to redirect his trajectory, tried to phase into unreality, tried everything, except consequences. Jiren appeared above him, faster than MXY's consciousness could track, and drove him downward with a two-handed strike that would have pulverized mountains. MXY hit the threshold's event horizon and stuck there, half in existence, half in void. His scream transcended normal sound, becoming something that made atoms uncomfortable. No, 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 not again. Yes. Jiren landed beside the struggling imp. Again, and this time permanently. Behind them, Superman and Trigon's battle raged closer. The Demon Lord had abandoned subtlety, using raw hellfire to scour everything within reach. Superman matched him blow for blow, but even Kryptonian endurance had limits. Kal, Wonder Woman, blocked a stray blast meant for civilian shelters. Drive him toward the threshold. I'm trying. Superman caught Trigon's fist bones creaking under the pressure. He's stronger than before. Because he feeds on desperation, Dr. Fate interjected, helm blazing brighter despite his weakening state. Yours specifically. Your need to control this situation strengthens him. Superman's jaw clenched. Then I'll control harder. He tackled Trigon at supersonic speed, driving the demon toward the threshold through sheer force of will. They tumbled through wreckage, through fire, through the last fragments of a city that had seen too much trauma. Jiren watched them approach, then made a decision. He released MXY, who immediately tried to flee, and moved to intercept the clashing titans. His hand found Trigon's throat. His other found Superman's shoulder. And he pulled them apart with the same ease one might separate fighting children. Enough, he said. The word carried finality that transcended language. Both combatants froze, struck by the absolute certainty in that single syllable. Jiren hurled Trigon toward the threshold. The demon tumbled through air, too surprised to resist immediately. By the time his four eyes widened in realization, he'd crossed the point of no return. Hellfire erupted in protest, and Jiren's hand crushed it. Not through superior heat resistance, through simple refusal to acknowledge its authority over his flesh. Trigon fell through the threshold, roaring defiance that quickly became terror as the void between worlds began to close around him. MXY lunged for escape one final time. Jiren caught him by the ankle, pulled him back, and shoved him through after the demon. Wait! MXY's voice cut off as dimensions folded around him. Now, Jiren commanded. Shazam struck the threshold with lightning, not the kind that destroyed, the kind that sealed, Pure magical current that bound the tears shut welded reality back together through sheer elemental force. Nightwing and Dr. Fate added their power, creating a lattice of containment spells that would hold even if the physical universe forgot they existed. And in the space of 3 heartbeats, the threshold collapsed. The void sealed. 2 reality warpers found themselves imprisoned in the space between spaces where their powers would cancel each other out through mutual interference, where they could rage and plot for eternity without ever touching anything real again. Silence fell across Metropolis. Then the cost came due. Dr. Fate's form flickered violently. His helm's glow died to embers. The anchoring required more than magical energy. Fate, Superman stepped forward. I am being pulled through. The seal demands a tether from this side. Fate's voice remained calm, despite describing his own execution. Without it, the barrier weakens within hours. No. Wonder Woman moved to grab him, but her hand passed through already fading essence. There has to be another way. There is not. Fate looked toward Jiren, golden slits in his helm, reflecting nothing. You understood this would be the price. I did. Jiren's expression never changed. You chose to pay it. Some choices are not choices. Fate's form dissolved into golden particles drifting toward the sealed threshold like dust drawn to vacuum. But they are still worth making. He vanished. Kent Nelson's helmet clattered to the ground, empty, inert. Just metal now, severed from the Lord of Order who'd worn it for decades. The silence lasted longer this time. Then Superman moved to pick up the helmet. His hands trembled microscopic tremors most people would miss. But everyone here had enhanced perception. Everyone saw. He didn't have to die, Superman said quietly. No. Jiren studied the empty artifact. He chose to die, because your system created circumstances where that became necessary. Superman's hands tightened on the helmet. You think this is my fault? I think you built a world where one man's death is the price of stability. That is always the tyrant's mathematics. I kept people safe. You kept them controlled. Jiren turned to face him fully. Those lightless pupils held no judgment, no anger, just observation. There is a difference. You have 5 years to learn it. Superman's heat vision flickered, not in threat, in barely contained emotion that had nowhere productive to go. And what would you have done in my position? I would not have positioned myself as judge of all. Jiren looked toward the horizon where dawn threatened to break. Power is not proof of righteousness. It is only proof of power. He walked toward the edge of the crater their battle had created. The city lay in ruins around them again. How many times had Metropolis been rebuilt? How many times could you reconstruct before the foundation itself became unstable? You're leaving. Not a question from Superman, a statement. My purpose is finished. Your purpose was to judge me. Superman's voice hardened. So judge. Say what you came here to say. Jiren stopped, looked back over his shoulder at the Kryptonian who tried to save the world by controlling it. You are not evil, Jiren said. You are worse. You are what good becomes when it forgets why it matters. The word struck harder than any physical blow. Superman actually staggered, as if his invulnerable body had just learned how to feel pain in a new way. Wonder Woman placed a hand on his shoulder. Batman emerged from wherever he'd been coordinating, studying Jiren with the intensity of someone cataloging a threat they might face again. Will you return? Batman asked. Only if necessary. Jiren's gaze swept across them: Superman, Batman, Diana, the scattered insurgency forces, the ruins of a regime that had outlasted its justification. This world must learn to save itself, not wait for salvation. Pretty words, Constantine muttered, appearing from a shadow with his usual impeccable timing. But you're leaving us with the same mess, just slightly rearranged. Yes. Jiren didn't apologize for it, because the mess is yours. Not mine to clean. Not anyone's to impose order upon. He looked at Superman specifically. Least of all yours. He began walking again, and this time no one stopped him. Through the rubble, through the empty streets where citizens slowly emerged from shelters, staring at devastation that had become routine. Through the districts where regime enforcers stood uncertain, waiting for orders from a leader who'd just been told his power meant nothing. At the city limits where damaged roads met countryside, Jiren paused. A rift opened, not violent, not dramatic, simply present. The same fracture he'd arrived through now reversed. Jiren. Superman had followed, keeping distance but maintaining line of sight. When you look at me, what do you see? Jiren considered the question, turned to face the man who'd killed the Joker, conquered a planet, and called it peace. I see someone who had every tool needed to inspire, Jiren said quietly, and chose to threaten instead. He stepped through the rift. Reality sealed behind him without ceremony. No explosion of light, no dramatic flourish. Just closed as if the Gray Warrior had been edited out of the narrative entirely. Superman floated there for 90 seconds, staring at empty air where judgment had stood. Then he flew back to his city, his regime, his world that now questioned whether he'd ever been its protector or just its most powerful prisoner. In the days that followed, Metropolis rebuilt again. The regime continued operating, but with less certainty, less absolute conviction. Superman issued fewer edicts, attended more to actual threats than perceived threats. He didn't transform overnight into the hero he'd been. That man was dead, buried under 5 years of choices that couldn't be unmade. But he stopped pretending those choices had been right. And in the spaces between control and chaos, in the gaps, where neither regime nor insurgency held absolute power, something new began growing. Not hope. Hope was too clean a word for what injustice produced. But possibility. The understanding that maybe, just maybe, the world didn't need one person to save it. Maybe it needed everyone to stop waiting for salvation. Batman found the helm of Nabu 3 days later, still lying where fate had fallen. He picked it up, studied it, ran every test his equipment could devise. No magical signature, no consciousness inside, just metal shaped like authority. He placed it in a vault, labeled it, added it to the list of costs, then returned to his war knowing it would never truly end, but also knowing it might eventually stop requiring so many sacrifices. Constantine drank himself into oblivion for 2 weeks, mourning a friend who'd chosen principle over survival. Wonder Woman returned to Themyscira, needing to remember what uncorrupted strength looked like. And Superman stood alone in the watchtower, looking down at Earth, wondering when the weight of protecting it had become indistinguishable from the weight of owning it. The answer, of course, was the moment he had stopped asking the question. The sky above Metropolis was neither red nor blue anymore, just gray. The color of something that had survived, but not healed, that continued existing without remembering why. And somewhere beyond dimensions, in a space where universe-ending forces did their work, Jiren returned to whatever purpose had sent him forth. He did not think about Superman again. He did not wonder if his words had changed anything. He had delivered judgment. What came after was not his concern. That was the difference between justice and control. One imposed order. The other demanded that people choose it. And Jiren, for all his power, for all his absolute certainty, understood one thing Superman never had. The strongest force in any universe wasn't the one that compelled obedience. It was the one that walked away when its work was finished, leaving behind only echoes and questions with no comfortable answers. And years later, historians would debate whether anything truly changed after the Grey Warrior's arrival. The regime endured. The war continued. Superman still ruled. But he ruled differently, questioned more, trusted his own judgment less. And in the cracks of that uncertainty in the space where absolute certainty had once resided, people found room to breathe, to think, to remember that strength was never the same as wisdom. It wasn't victory. It wasn't peace. It wasn't even really change. But it was a beginning. And beginnings, however small, were all any world ever truly needed. The rest was just deciding whether to build or burn, whether to control or trust, whether power served people or people served power. The questions remained unanswered, but at least finally they were being asked.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.